Welcome back. Inside this Portage home, a married couple was stabbed to death. Well, now, decades later, family members of the victims are living in fear that their two killers may have a chance at freedom. It's all because of a new Michigan Supreme Court ruling. That ruling bans mandatory life sentences for 19 and 20-year-olds who've committed murder, calling them unconstitutional.
And soon hundreds of convicted killers will go before a judge to be resentenced. In tonight's I-Team report, News Channel 3's Autumn Pitcher talks with the prosecutor on this case, who feels the ruling is undoing justice.
These two men were convicted of murder with no chance of parole for the 1994 stabbing deaths of William and Mildred Witters. Kalamazoo County Prosecutor Jeff Getting tells me life sentences for those 20 years and younger should still apply, but he predicts achieving this won't be easy, even in the most violent cases. This now vacant lot in Portage is where William and Mildred Witters' home sat for decades, a home filled with laughter and memories where they raised all 8 of their kids.
We all grew up there, and it started off to be a small house, and as mother and dad had more kids, they just kept adding on.
Robin, the youngest, says her parents were loved by the community, making what happened on April 25, 1994 nearly impossible to believe, even now.
You would think it was from a horror movie.
William and Mildred's safe haven becoming the place their lives ended when they were murdered by 2 intruders.
Mr. Witters was stabbed, I believe, 23 times.
Then he went in and he slit my mother's throat. She was helpless. Parkinson's disease, very debilitating.
Kalamazoo County Prosecutor Jeff Getting tells me their killers, Johnathan Thomas and Christopher Maye, did it for money.
Between the two of them, they each got less than $1,000 for killing 2 people. They don't deserve a chance to be released in my eyes.
But because Thomas and Maye were 19 at the time, they're eligible for a reduced sentence under a new Michigan Supreme Court ruling that bans mandatory life sentences for 19 and 20-year-old convicts.
How it feels to have this happening is to have an old wound slashed wide open and it's gushing.
The ruling expands on the state's 2022 ban for offenders 18 and younger.
The reality is that well over 90% of those cases are resulting in term of year sentences, not life without parole sentences.
Meaning killers are ending up back on the street. Killers like Frederico Cruz. Getting says in 1997, Cruz, who was 16 years old, was convicted for beheading a teen in Kent County and serving life. In 2023, his sentence was reduced. Earlier this year in March, he was paroled and is set to be discharged in 2027.
Do you trust our justice system today?
I do not trust our justice system today. Our very own Michigan Supreme Court is releasing violent murderers, releasing them into our neighborhoods, our communities, with no intent whatsoever to consider our safety.
Getting says the pressure is on Michigan prosecutors to protect the community now by proving to a judge life sentences should still apply.
In the process that's been set out by our courts, it's not likely that we win.
The Michigan Supreme Court wants prosecutors to consider behavior in prison when they make their final recommendation.
None of it changes what they did, but that gets overlooked. We are putting murderers ahead of victims. And that is backwards.
They murdered my mother and dad. They tortured them. They belong behind bars.
The Witters family calling on the Michigan Supreme Court to undo the ruling before hundreds of resentencings move forward.
We are calling for the safety of our society by changing and turning the law around, or it's time to step down.
A status conference will be held next month to decide whether to move forward with a resentencing hearing for Thomas and Maye. And if there is no hearing, Getting says he'll negotiate a maximum number of years sentence. That's what he plans on doing with most of these cases, calling it the last resort for prosecutors and upholding justice for families. In studio, Autumn Pitcher, News Channel 3.